Obviously, in class, we do a lot of graphing. It's good to know how to do graphs by hand, and so we do quite a few of the first graphs by hand. But of course, in the digital age, there's easier ways to go about it. So this video is going to take you through the steps to use Excel to make a scatter plot, a simple scatter plot graph with the best fit line, and be able to put your equation on there even. So this is going to save you a lot of time. You can do all your graphs in Excel now. Just make sure you're getting your numbers in the right spot, follow the directions, and you can have these nice printed off graphs, and Excel will do all the calculations for you. And you don't have to worry about making mistakes on calculating your slope and things like that.
The point of this tutorial is to give you an introduction into making graphs on Excel, which will take a lot of the handwork and the time spent out of making graphs for your labs. So let's start by opening up Excel. And this is a newer version of Excel, so it might be a little bit different from what you have, but the same basic process is going to create a graph on either version. The first thing you have when you open up Excel are all these different cells here. This can actually be used to make nice tables for your graphs too that you can print out. But the point today is to learn how to make a graph. So we're going to start by entering in some data. So we want to make a little table here where we're going to put in some numbers and then use those numbers to make a graph. And just as an example, we're going to put in some data for the measurement of a position of a car over a certain amount of time. Now the way Excel is set up, we always want to enter our independent variable first. So as far as our data goes here, we've got positions of a car over certain time periods. The time period is going to be our independent data. So we want to put time in first. We're going to make a little table here. So we're going to put time. We're not going to forget units. Put seconds there. And then position. And we'll put meters for our units of position. Obviously, if you have something different as your data, you would want to put it in differently, but you always want to put the independent variable first. And then we'll put in our times. So we'll put 10, 20, 30, 40, and 50 seconds. And then we'll put in some position data here. 10.1, 14.8, 19.6, 4.7, and 30. Now that we have our data table, we want to make a graph out of it. And so we're going to start by highlighting our data table, just by clicking and dragging. Now, depending on the version of Excel you have, this part might be a little bit different. If you've got an older version of Excel, there should be a button right up at the top that looks like a graph, and you would want to click on that. Now, this is a newer version of Excel, so in this case, we want to go over to Insert on this tab up at the top, and click that. And then we've got all these different chart options here. Of course, all our charts and our graphs in our class, we want to make scatter plot graphs. So we're going to pick scatter, click on that, and then down here you've got some options. Of course, we don't want any lines on it, we just want the data points. So if we click on that, it actually brings a graph up. And you can click and drag to reposition it. And then you can also click on these parts down in the corner to actually make your graph bigger if you'd like to. Now, Excel tries to kind of do some things for you. And one of the things it does is it puts a title up on top. Well, all it did is take the title of our dependent data, our dependent variable. So we want to actually make this a real title. So if you click in there and you highlight it, you can retype. And we'll make this say position of a car every 10 seconds to make it a little bit more specific. Okay. The other thing that Excel actually doesn't do is that it doesn't put any labels on our vertical or horizontal axis. And so we obviously want to label those so we know what those things are. So for that, we're going to go up to the tabs again, and we're going to click on Layout. And on Layout, we can see up here under Labels, we've got Axis Titles. So we'll click on that, and we'll go down to primary horizontal axis title. We want to the title, display the title below the axis. And it'll pop up, and then we can click in there and actually name that. So in this case, this is going to be time in seconds. And then, of course, we want to do the same thing with our vertical axis. So we'll go back up here to axis titles. Then we want the vertical axis. We'll do the rotated title so it's kind of sideways. Click in there. I'll make that say position in meters. Okay, and the other thing I like to do, it kind of puts this little legend over here. But since we've already got each axis labeled, we don't really need that. So I would click on that and just hit delete and get rid of it. So now we've got a pretty decent graph. You could just print this out, but of course, one thing that we like to do is we like to put a best fit line on our graph. So in that case, we want to go up here at the top. It's going to be under the layout tab still, where it says analysis. And we see it says trend line. So we want to click on that, and then we're actually going to go all the way down to more trend line options. Click that. And then you've got this whole menu that comes up. It's already on linear, and that's what we want. We want a nice straight line. We don't want any curved lines. So we're going to have a linear trend line or best fit line. And then we also want to go down here and click on display equation on chart. And then we'll hit close. And you can see it's added a best fit line, and it's going to be a perfect best fit line. There's no guesswork here. Excel has done the calculations. And it also gives us the equation for the line, so we don't need to figure that out either. One of the things that Excel does that's kind of bad is it makes it so small. So to make this bigger, we're going to go up to our tabs and go back to the Home tab. So we'll click on the Home tab, and then we can go over to this A with a little mark above it, the bigger A, and it's increase font size. So if we click on that, every time we click it, it'll make it bigger, and you can just make it big until it's as big as you want it. And we can click on that equation and drag it around to wherever we like. So we can see in this case, it's already calculated our slope. That's the first number here, and it's also calculated our y-intercept. The problem is this is not in the format that we want to use. This is more in a math format, where it's got y and x, and then m and b as far as the numbers go. So we want to make this make more sense for our class. So we can click in here and we can actually replace these things. We can type over them. So if you highlight, click and drag to highlight it, we know y needs to be the variable for our vertical axis. So in this case, that's position. We put an x there. This number stands for our slope. In this case, it's the ratio of the position to the time. So our units need to reflect that. The units for position are meters. The units for time are seconds. So this is going to be 0.499 meters per second. X is going to be the variable for the horizontal axis. In this case, that's time. So we want to put a T in there. And then the 4.89 indicates our y-axis, which in this case is our starting position. Now, for some reason, Excel's trend lines, they do not extend them all the way till they hit the axis. But since the computer is doing it, it can calculate that perfectly. You just need to remember what it means. So in this case, it means the starting position, and it needs to have the units of that vertical axis. So this is going to be in meters. We'll move that over again so it's not outside the graph. So in this case, we've got a nice graph. We can print this out, and you can actually cut that out and paste it into your, tape it into your graph notebook. You got this perfect graph with this nice equation. And it takes not near as much work as actually graphing those dots out, using making your own best fit line and calculating your equation.
So I hope that helps. If you have any questions, of course, you can watch the video. Otherwise, you can come to me, and I'll be happy to give you a hand. Make sure you get your Excel graphs right.